Looks like it's 9:45, so let's get started. Good morning. You don't have to sit all the way up the back. You can come a bit closer. We've got plenty of seats. So how many of you were at the session yesterday that I did on getting ahead of cyber attacks? Just a show of hands. Okay, so a few people weren't there. So I'm Jeff Alexander. I'm a technical specialist for enterprise mobility and security based out of the Microsoft Sydney office. You guys probably know me as the artist formerly known as a technical evangelist for the last 12 years, but I've changed roles recently. So I'm in doing a lot of the stuff around enterprise mobility and security. And today we're going to talk about cloud app security. Is anybody using Microsoft Cloud App Security? I'd like to see a show of hands if anybody's actually using it. Is that one person? You're the guy with the Windows phone from yesterday. All right, so there's one guy using it, so if anybody has any questions, just ask him. No, I'm only kidding. Cloud App Security is all about getting visibility and control of your cloud applications that you don't know that your users are actually using. So how I'm going to work through this today is I'm going to take you through a little bit about what Cloud App Security is, and then show you a bit of a demo, and then a new feature that's coming later this year called In-Session Control, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So just to reiterate, Cloud App Security was an acquisition that Microsoft made. It was our Adalom acquisition that we acquired. And this particular product is sitting within EMS that gives you the ability to see what cloud apps you're actually using. And if you look at what, I think those of you that were here yesterday, we talked about EMS and what EMS is all about. It's about and we want to emphasize the only comprehensive solution for protecting users across the devices and data and apps that they actually use. Okay, so customers are increasingly in this cloud world. We are seeing customers actually asking us they need to have access control, persistent data protection, and attack detection and remediation. We'll talk about how Cloud App Security actually helps in that scenario. It's a holistic solution across all your identity, your devices, your apps, and your data. I'm not going to go into much more detail about that because we kind of covered this a little bit yesterday, but I just wanted to give you a reiteration of what we are actually doing in regards to this. It's a complete solution that provides all that. It gives you, powered by our security intelligence, and I talked about the intelligent security graph yesterday and how that actually helps you manage that and get the data to do this. So where does Cloud App Security actually sit? When you think about our mobility solutions, we have these 4 pillars, so 5 pillars that are in there. We have identity and access management, which is all about the identity. Azure Active Directory is the foundation for that. That is the foundation for everything we do in EMS, Enterprise Mobility and Security. Then we have User, Entity, and Behavior Analytics, or UEBA. I talked about that yesterday, and I showed you a little bit about Advanced Threat Analytics to be able to look at threats that are inside your organization and see where potential issues could arise. Then everybody's probably familiar with Microsoft Intune. That's our mobile device and app management. And then later on this afternoon, Andrew McMurray, who texted me this morning, he did get to his plane this morning, which was good to know. He was very close to missing his plane this morning. He's going to be talking about information protection at 5 o'clock in this room. And that's about Azure Information Protection. And then Cloud App Security is cloud and SaaS app security, bringing you enterprise-grade security for your cloud and SaaS applications. So just a bit of a show of hands. How many of you in your organizations have users that are using SaaS applications today? Do you guys know how many SaaS applications they're using? No idea? Absolutely no idea, right? That's a common thing, and I'm going to show you some statistics that we have in regards to that. So when you think about this, the need for Cloud App Security is what we call a CASB product. It's called a CASB, Cloud App Security Broker product. And if you look at some of the statistics that Gartner's put out, I'll just call out a couple of things that are very important. Those of you that said you have users that are using SaaS applications, 80% of employees use applications that have not been approved by IT, that have not been approved by you, and they're using it for their data, for their daily jobs. They're probably putting data into these. You have no governance over those applications. They might be violating some sort of compliance, and they're using that. And what we're seeing is 10% of organizations that fail asset security risk will experience a cloud security failure. And they're saying by 2019, we'll see audits will routinely include risk in their audits going forward. And then if you look at that 85% number is an increase from 5% in 2015, where large enterprises will actually use a cloud broker solution to find out what's going on with their SaaS applications. So more than 50% of leading cloud SaaS applications will offer native data encryption of theirs. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So if you look at shadow IT by the numbers, this is a scary statistic, is that, and I talked yesterday about privileged identity management. We've seen that 75% of organizations have idle admin accounts that are privileged, that have access inside their organization. 25% of files that are shared go public to Dropbox, to all these other places. One of the common ones I heard is when, I think it was in 2014, when the summit was here in Brisbane. I think it was the G something summit, I can't remember what they call it. One of the guys in that group actually accidentally fat-fingered an email of all the Obama's passport details to the Asia Soccer World Cup. So luckily they contacted them and they sent that data back and they got rid of it. So, you know, you're seeing a lot of this. 80% of employees are using those applications. The real thing here is shadow IT leaves you vulnerable. It's a blind spot for IT so that you can't actually see what's going on. On average, we see that employees in your organization are using, on average, 17 cloud applications that are used by employees. Okay, so what's cloud app security? What is it there for? There's really 3 pillars that we're focusing on. There's a 4th pillar that's not there, which is our in-session control or proxy. It's enterprise-grade security for your cloud applications, giving you visibility, control, so that you can create policies and do governance around those applications. We have granular controls that allow you to set policy settings for access, data sharing, and data leakage prevention. And it integrates tightly with Office 365 DLP, so if you've already done some Office 365 DLP, it integrates into that as well. And then threat detection, so that you can detect abnormal user behavior and prevent those threats. Think of this as similar to ATA on premises, but for in the cloud for your cloud applications. All right? All right, so there's some questions we actually need to answer in regards to this. How do I find employees that are downloading a large amount? You know, if all of a sudden a user starts to download customer details from an airport kiosk, or all of a sudden they've downloaded 5 gig of data, how do I actually then control the access to those? How do I quarantine that user to make sure that they're not downloading that data incorrectly? How do I prevent data breaches? How do I actually say if an employee publicly shares a sensitive file, how can I actually detect that? How do you know if a user is actually sharing a file into a public place? How do you actually find that out? How do I know if my users have been breached? And how do I, we've got Office, how many of you got Office 365 in your organizations today? Okay, so a lot of people have Office 365. How do you know if they're using other applications? They're probably using other applications, and which groups are actually using those applications. And we had fine-grained controls to be able to do that. So, cloud discovery. We have a complete framework. First of all, what we have to do is do a discovery. Now, what we do discover all cloud uses in your organization. We set up discovery rules, and we go and look through your proxy logs and your firewall appliances, and I'll show you the different types of appliances that we actually use. We do a scan of that, and we're able to detect the applications that are being used at that time. Then we can monitor and control that data in the cloud. So the next thing we do is we go in and we look at information protection, and then we go and look at threat detection. How can we control this through policies to say if this user downloads this particular document to Box, we want to quarantine them or we want to block them from doing that. Now, the things on the left hand, I don't know if it's left or right based on how that's actually looking on the screen, but everything to the left of in-session control is offline. Okay, so it's basically you have to set up a manual scan of your environment, or you can do an automatic scan with a log collector on premises in your network. In-session control is about being able to detect this based on the user's context, based on the session context. This is our in-session control or proxy that's coming later this year. So, discovery. What do we actually do from a discovery point of view? So from a discovery point of view, we discover cloud apps that are used inside your network. Then we investigate those, and we can look at, what's the top IP address that's downloading this data. Now, when we do discovery, we don't put the username and data. We encrypt. We have the ability to anonymize that data as it's coming up into Cloud App Security. So all you're getting is a hash of that user, and it's using AES 128 encryption when we're putting that into Cloud App Discovery. We have a risk score for 13,000 cloud apps, and every time I show this to a customer, they kind of freak out a bit, because what we do is we support up to 13,000 apps. That is increasing all the time right now. And we base this on 60 different security and compliance factors, like, does this particular application support the AES encryption or this type of security? And I'll show you what that looks like. And then at that point, what we do is we group those applications into what we call unsanctioned and sanctioned apps. You can then go and say, okay, this app, we're going to allow users to use this, and we're going to monitor the usage of that application. We'll sanction that application and do some protection on that, okay? Then what we can do is we can send alerts. Alerts get bubbled up into the dashboard to alert on risky cloud usage. You know, if I mentioned that Derek is one of my users in my environment, what if he all of a sudden starts to download 5 gig of data? That's an anomaly that's going on. He's downloading something he probably shouldn't be downloading. We see new apps and trending apps alerts. You know, if users all of a sudden start using some weird cloud application, and we'll see some new alerts about that particular application. So it integrates with your networking appliances, okay? So there's a number of appliances that we support, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Things like Blue Code, Cisco firewall ports, Squid, all these different types of appliances. And we're constantly increasing the number of appliances that we support, and I'll show you the list in a second of what we actually do support. So once we actually do that, the next step is to go on into information protection. So what we are doing now is we've just started to roll out with release 89 of Cloud App Security, is that we've started to roll out the ability to view Office 365 security and compliance, okay? So if you've configured DLP policies in Office 365, we will actually integrate with that policies. The policies are matched and detected within Cloud App Security. So we're starting to see more tighter integration with Office 365 information protection and third-party DLPs. The big thing to call out here, though, is that we now will be able to detect classification and labels that are being set up within Azure Information Protection. Okay, so we can go and look for documents that might have credit card data and apply a policy based on that data that's in there to say, well, we've got credit card data in this document. We don't want to allow that to be going outside of OneDrive for Business or go out to Box or Dropbox or something like that. So we have the ability to put some governance across all these applications. Now, right now, when we talk about our cloud apps, Cloud App Security is an API-based CASB product. So there's about 15 or so cloud app providers that provide their API that allows you to connect your applications to Cloud App Security to get deep governance on those applications. So what it means is that you can go and see, okay, I've got all these applications. I want to alert the administrator when documents go into this particular location, and I want to be able to do something with that. Quarantine the user, make that document private, stop that document in its tracks. So we can quantify the exposure and the risk, detect and manage all those third-party applications, and then we govern all that and leverage Microsoft and third-party DLP for classification. We get alerts. So we get alerts that identify policy violations, and that gets bubbled up into the console. And then we investigate those, and we can go and investigate them. It's got a powerful filtering engine that allows you to do that. And then the great thing is being able to quarantine users. Okay, so we can do this automatically or manually, quarantining these users based on where they've actually put that document. Okay, so threat detection. The next thing around threat detection is we can go in, and I talked about the intelligent security graph yesterday, all the signals that we're getting into our cloud system. So we leverage the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. We now support in preview at this point in time is third-party SIEM systems. So how many of you are using SIEM systems like Splunk and stuff like that? So you can add a SIEM system and bring those logs into Cloud App Security, and it's in private preview right now. I don't think it's private. It's not private, is it? It's public preview, I think. It's private preview? Yeah, it's in my tenant, so I'm pretty happy about that. So anyway, so we can identify our anomalies in the cloud where we might actually indicate that there's a breach, and then we can do something. We can leverage all the behavioral analytics. So, you know, it might be that, you know, Derek doesn't normally download that much data. So why is he actually downloading this much data? where we can see how that interaction is for each of the SaaS applications that they use, and assess risk for each transaction to see what we're doing there. And then we have some incident investigation tools that allows us to pivot and find out what's going on with those. And we can customize our policies based on those findings that we see. And then we get that unique insight into what's there. But I want to show you this. The best way to show you this is to really kind of give you a view of the Cloud App Security console and take you through some of the things that you would do to set this up. It's a very, very easy console to go through, so I'm going to take you through and show you how we would actually set up Cloud App Security. Okay. It's appearing. Great. Okay, so first of all, we start off with the general dashboard. And what you see on the dashboard here is that I've got some alerts, and it's broken down into that discover, investigate, control, and then we've got some alerts there. So you can see here that I've got 2,500 activities have been monitored. I ran a scan on this so that I've scanned my environment, and I was able to discover 550 SaaS applications that my users are using. And we've had customers that have used this where they have discovered a large amount of applications they had no visibility to, and they were able to find out what the users were using. Because as we move into this mobile-first cloud world, users are actually using these devices and they want to get their job done with those devices. So we can see here the different applications for the different apps that our users are currently using. We can see our alerts that are currently happening right now. So we have 5 open alerts, and those alerts are telling me where data is actually being used. And we have some policies that we've put in place. For example, I'm concerned about PII data that is put in the cloud. And I've got some alerts that shows that I've got some PII data on there that's there. But first of all, I want to show you some quick configuration things that we've got to do. So if you go up into settings, what you can actually see, we've got some settings that you're going to want to actually look at here. One of the things that we do throughout Cloud App Security when you're setting this up is what we call a governance log. Now, the governance log will tell you everything that's been done so that you can keep track. Now, the different logs that we have within here are stored where our data is actually kept for 90 days. The discovery log is kept for 90 days. The activity log is 180 days. And there's another log that's kept for 90 days as well. We also have, you can see here the SIEM agents. That's showing up as a new feature in private preview where you can actually go in and add your SIEM agents in there. But the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into set cloud discovery settings. Now, the cloud discovery settings are showing you the different risk scores that we're going to give to this, and you can customize this to however you want it to be. And we break this down into a number of different things. Where when the user's using that cloud application, you want to know a bit about the company that they're using. What are they? Are publicly or private held company? Consumer popularity. Then we have some security. Do they support an audit trail? Do they require user authentication to their app? There's some deep things in here that tell you, does the server provide a trusted SSL certificate? And then what you do over here is you say, okay, how important is this to my organization? Okay, we have some defaults that we will set for this. I haven't changed the defaults on this. It tends to set everything to medium. And I can go in and choose how I want that set up for this. And I'll show you what it looks like in the UI. Then, this is a key thing here around anonymization. When I talked about how we're getting data into the tool, if we anonymize private information, what we do is a hash of the username and the username that's coming up into Cloud App Security. So we use 128-bit AES encryption to bring that up in there. And if you're going to change this, if you're going to actually go and do an investigation and search for some of the data there, and you want to search on a particular user, you have to justify why you're actually doing that. Because we're going to take that hash, convert it to the username, so that you can do some investigation if there's a user that's downloading a lot of data and you want to find that out. And you can do, basically what you do is you take that from anonymized data, type the username in, and we'll resolve that name so that you can then go do some investigation. So we have the ability to manage snapshot reports. And what you see here is I've got a snapshot report that I did in January, earlier this month. This data will last for 90 days, and then I've got that report gets run so that I can then go see that. Now, if you wanted to automatically do that, you can download a Hyper-V or VMware VM, and it's a log collector for Cloud App Security. And essentially, that log collector will automatically do log collection against your particular appliance that you want to do that, so that you can automatically upload and keep those logs up to date. That's the automatic way of doing it. And it's just a Linux virtual machine, and we have instructions on how you actually, I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. Okay, so once we've set up our cloud discovery, and of course we've got our governance log here, and what you can see is our governance log is a trace of everything that we've done within Cloud App Security, so that we have an audit trail about what we've actually done. And you can see here I've done a refresh, I've done a snapshot report, I've parsed my discovery log, I've done a whole bunch of things, and how much data that was successfully uploaded to Cloud App Security at that time. Then the next thing is you can go and add SIEM agents. All right, so we have the ability to go and add a SIEM agent, and it's just a wizard that takes you through. You type the name of the SIEM agent you want to call this, and you choose your format. Supporting generic CEF or HP ArcSight for your SIEM agent. And then you go through the wizard, connect it to your SIEM agent, and you'll be able to bring that data in. Obviously, I don't have that, and we have an integration guide that takes you out to our docs.microsoft.com that takes you through the integration of how that works. So I'm going to quit there. And then you're going to want to go in and set up your log collectors. And this is kind of a two-part process. We have to add some data sources first and then set up a log collector. So I've got one here that I've set up for Squid. I've got a Cisco Ironport one that I've set up as well. If I wanted to go and add a new data source, I can essentially give this, say, a name of, you might have multiple collectors within your environment and you want to grab data from multiple locations. So I'm going to say Gold Coast for this one. And if you look at this, these are the number of appliances that we support. So we've got Blue Coat, Checkpoint, Dell Sonic Firewall, Fortinet. I believe we just added Squid recently. Zscaler, WebSense, those are all the appliances that you'll be able to get the logs out of those and bring that data into Cloud App Security. And the other way you do this, when you start doing that, you can tick the box to anonymize private information. So if you don't want to actually have the data for that particular, your users that are coming in there, you can anonymize that data. And then of course you're going to choose your appliance, and we'll just say Blue Coat for this purpose. And then we can select the receiver type, whether it's FTP or syslog. And then you can put some comments in, and away you go. Once you've actually set that up, you've got your data sources there. Then you've got to go in and add your log collectors. So I've got one here for my Sydney firewall, which is getting data from my CAS log collector on premises, my VM that's coming in there. And if I go in and add a log collector, give it a name, we'll call this Ignite. And if we click Update, I've got to assign a data source, so we'll call this Brisbane. And I click Update. What you're actually going to see here is you're going to get a password for this virtual machine. So it gives you a link to download the Hyper-V virtual machine or the VMware virtual machine. We all know which one we're going to download, right? It's going to be the Hyper-V one. So Ben Armstrong was just here. He's the Hyper-V guy, so I've got to say that. So you download the Hyper-V one, gives you a password. You can see that the add-alarm stuff is still there. Then you're going to log onto the virtual machine over SSH. So use whatever SSH you want to use. You can use that in Bash in Windows 10 if you want to. You can do it directly from a Bash command prompt in Windows 10. Do a sudo network config and then put this token. So you're going to want to put that token in. You copy that token in. That'll do a sudo network config and configure that to connect to your appliance. And that'll do your automatic uploading of all those on that. And it tells you the TCP port that you're going to need to open to do that. All right? So once that's all done, I don't want to do that, that's fine. Then you can start to look at some of the data that's coming in. And then you've got the next thing you want to do is you're going to want to add your applications that you're going to want to do governance against those applications. I added the ones that I didn't have to pay for an administrator account. So I was able to actually add Dropbox and Salesforce and ServiceNow. ServiceNow has a demo tenant that you can play around with to do that. Essentially what you do is you just go and add your different, so if I wanted to go and add Box, it allows me to connect Box, and I just basically go and, what we're going to do is it's going to create an OAuth token connection to that particular cloud app application, so that we can then go and provide some, and I'll show you where the governance is when we go and set up our policies. So you can connect and follow this link, and it gives you details on how you actually go and do that, and we've got those for each of the applications that we actually support right now. So once we do all that and we've configured it, we're going to want to go in and do a discovery. And the first thing you're going to want to look at is your cloud discovery dashboard. And this is really, really rich information that you're getting in regards to, okay, I'm looking at the dashboard here, and I'm seeing that Derek has downloaded, I'm going to pick on you, Derek, and say, you've downloaded about 11 gig of data. What are you doing, man? You're pulling a whole bunch of information out of our CRM tool. That could be a bit suspicious. Maybe he's getting another job, he's pulling customer accounts out or something, who knows? So we go and find out, and basically what we can see here is the discovered applications that we're using. And you see these applications that we have, and you can see that we rate these applications by the amount of data that's coming in, the number of users that are using that. And you can see here that OneDrive for Business is my most popular SaaS application that's being used. There's 10,000 transactions that have gone into that. But hey, I've got some other applications that are being used that I'm not really too sure about. What's this Major League Baseball thing going on? Who's been using that? So I don't want, there's a whole bunch of things, and you can see these different ratings. There's a score. We have those 60 ratings around compliance that I showed you before in the UI, where we go and rate that application to see what's going on with that how that application rates. So let's go and have a look at one of the lower numbers. Say Send My Way. What's Send My Way? That's a cloud storage application. Right, so what we see is a bunch of data. All right. Customers that I've talked to say that for them to get this data would cost them a huge amount of money to get this data, to be able to interrogate and get that information. So you can see here that it doesn't support multi-factor authentication. It hasn't got a lot of information around its compliance on that particular application. So we might want to investigate why people are actually using that application. But if I go up here to OneDrive for Business, you can see that there's a whole bunch of information about what security does it actually use. Okay? What's its data at rest encryption method? And if you want to find out more information about each one of these, if you hover over this, it gives you a little drop down to say, okay, this is the method that it's actually using for data encryption. How did we actually rate this? Okay, our source is a cloud analyst, and then we give it a property score and then a weighting within that property score as well, weight in that particular category. And if you want to find out what TLS is, we can go in here and find out, okay, this is how we're rating this in that particular category. Then we have some compliance. What compliance does it actually meet? Okay, so if you look at, we've got FedRAMP level 3, we've got some HIPAA compliance, SOC 3, it doesn't meet that at this point in time. Okay, so it shows you the different types of compliance that application meets in this scenario. So then you know how safe your data is within each of those particular cloud providers. Now, after you've actually discovered those applications, and you see I've got 5 different sanctioned apps. Okay, so I've got 5 apps that have been sanctioned. That's great. We're happy with those applications. We can then go and look at IP addresses. So we can search by our top 100 IP addresses. So who is my top downloader of applications by the IP address? Then we can go and look at users, for example. Who are my top users? Okay, so I've got a rating of how much traffic, how many transactions they've been going in. We can drill down into, okay, the admin for Contoso is downloading a bunch of data. They've got 42 apps that are in use, and then we can go and look at some of the apps that they're using and drill down into that as well. Now, once you've actually, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can slice this data. And we categorize the data. We've got, you want to look at cloud storage that person's using. We want to look at this particular one, what's the rating on that particular application. Okay, so you can see the different things that, we've blocked. The user can upload data. Does this application support uploading of data? At this point, it doesn't. So you can see what they're doing. And then you can go into the Alerts tab to see where all of our alerts do. Now, the alerts are actually looking at the policies that we have in place. Okay, so the top one that I have here is files containing PCI detected in the cloud. This is our built-in DLP engine where we're seeing the data that's actually there. Once we've actually discovered all that, and we can discover by user, by discovered apps, by IP addresses, by cloud app catalog, we can then go and see all the different ones based in the score that they actually have. Then under the Investigate, you can see under the Investigate we have some connected apps that we currently have connected to Cloud App Security. We can go and look at our activity log, our files, the counts. We have some built-in reports that you can run. But the real interesting thing is around policies. And we have some templates that are built in. So we already have some templates that are there for you, and you can go and create policies based on those templates. So we have a number of ones that are here. And they're broken down into a number of different categories. Okay, so we have access control, cloud discovery, compliance, configuration control, our standard DLP engine that's set up as well, and integrating with Office 365. Like multiple failed user logon attempts to an application could be a problem. CRM app compliance checks, high volume application if a user is downloading high amounts of volume to that. So I can go then and go and create policies. And one of the things I want to show you with the policies is how those policies allow us to control the data that's coming in and out of that we're actually using. So here we've got logon from a risky IP address. We've got files containing DLP data. Okay, and what this does is you can see data that's been coming in and out of our network, out of our cloud network. And here you can see a document that's been used by 26 collaborators. And as we drill down into this, what you can see is where the files have been stored within OneDrive. We even are able to view the hierarchy. So where did that user copy that to their OneDrive? So that we can view the hierarchy and we can quarantine that user, or we can go ahead and stop that file in its tracks. So if I go down over here to this file, I have a couple of things I can do here. I can open that file, I can view the hierarchy, I can view related governance that document might be violating. I can put the user in quarantine. I can make that document private so that it's not then shared publicly anymore. So we have the option to do that, or remove them completely as a collaborator. Now the other thing I can do is if I go down into policies, and I've created a policy called super secret policy. And the super secret policy, it's coming up in a sec. Nothing's showing up there. Hang on a sec. What we were able to do is, you might not notice over here, we've got the classification labels. So classification labels allow you to say, okay, I want to integrate into my Azure Information Protection policies that I have in AIP. So if a document has credit card data or sensitive passport details, we will pick that up and allow us to do an automatic quarantine of that document and block it from going into that. So what I wanted to show you is how we would go and set that up. So if I go into my policies again, and I want to go into my super secret one that I set up, and if I go look at the policy settings, what we can do here is this is kind of where we set up our policy. We can base our policy on a template. So if I want to set this I can set it up and base it off a template, and we have a whole bunch of things that are already there. We have the ability to set this as low, medium, or high. We have a category for this particular policy, and we can say this could be a DLP policy. And we have some filters that we want. So we support the classification label, and this is bringing everything in from AIP. Okay, I'm logging on as the same admin within my tenant that I'm logging on for my Azure Information Protection. And it's reading the policies that I have. So I'm going to go and choose classification label equals, and I choose the labels I want. And these are my labels that I pulled in from Azure Information Protection. So things like social security numbers, secret, if the document is classified as secret, or if it's classified as social security numbers, I want to take some governance action against that document. We're going to apply it to all. We're then going to do a content inspection inside the document. We're going to look at for a US PII social security number. And you can see we've got a number of different ones that are here. Credit card number, SWIFT code, UK dateful, all these types of sensitive data. And then what we can do down the bottom here is we can set an alert for each matching file. So if we have more than 5 files, I want to send an email to the administrator, and I also want to send a text message. And then I have some governance. Remember the applications that we actually connected? When we go and do the app connectors through the API and do that OAuth connection into Cloud App Security, this will bubble up into our policies to show these are the applications that I can do governance against. Okay, so those particular applications like OneDrive for Business, what I'm going to do is I've got a number of things I can do. And in this case, I'm going to make that document private. Because it's got sensitive data, and we've leveraged the policies, the labels that we have within Azure Information Protection, and then we've leveraged the policies we have in Cloud App Security, and then we can automatically make that document private. Okay, so we're preventing that file from being leaked. We can go down and we can choose the different ones that we want at that point. We could choose, if it was SharePoint Online or probably with something like Dropbox. And you see they're different depending upon the different applications that are actually there. And if a document is in Salesforce, I can do some stuff within Salesforce as well. And that allows me to control those particular documents based on Azure Information Protection policies. Okay. Then if we go back to the dashboard, what we can actually see is some of the alerts that are there. And you can see some of the data. We've got a number of alerts that we can then go and take action on. For example, we've seen a new admin location. And we get some details. This is a test API. We see the details of that particular admin, the application that they've actually been accessing, and we can go and check their account settings, and we can resolve this if we wanted to, and say that that's okay later on down the track. Okay. So I wanted to show you a little bit about the architecture and how that's actually working. So how does the architecture work for this? So when we look at this, so you've got your organization down at the bottom left here, and then we've got your firewalls and your proxies. And essentially what we're doing is we're taking your cloud traffic logs, pushing that up into Cloud App Security, getting that information up there. We use those traffic logs to discover, analyze which cloud apps are in use. Then we can either manually or automatically upload those log files and then do some analysis and machine learning over those. We break that down into sanctioned and unsanctioned applications in the Cloud App Catalog. So we leverage the APIs that are provided by the various Cloud App providers. So their APIs. And when we collect our app connectors, we connect that app to extend protection and do governance with those applications. And then we run that report into Cloud App Security. And right now, as you saw, we support all those different firewall proxies. Those are increasing all the time. Now, the discovery architecture, as I said, when we do that discovery, you have your on-premises network. You can have that log collector on your network either through FTP, syslog, and that log collector you can upload through syslog CEF format. Those network logs then go through our log parser. We do an analysis through our SaaS database. Then we do some aggregations in the tenant DB, and we bubble that up into the dashboard so that you can then see those alerts. And that can be an automatic process or a manual process, depending upon how you want to set that up. And then the app connectors architecture is essentially an OAuth API connection. Okay, so we have third-party access to those accounts, and then we connect those particular accounts. We have an app connector manager that manages all this. Breaking that down into user groups, there's an activity API and a file API that allows you to then have protected cloud apps that you can then layer governance over those applications. And then, of course, one of the things that we do within Cloud App Security is an anomaly detection and activity. So we want to detect abnormal activity that's happening with our users. So what we do is we obviously have our protected cloud applications that are there based on our users, and we have an activity API that goes through our event enrichment engine, down through our alerts engine, and this is based on big data and machine learning. We'll look at anomaly detection and policy violations, and we'll bubble that up into the alert engine. And this leverages, obviously, our threat intelligence center, which is risky IP addresses, and a geolocation database. Because with users being located in multiple locations, we want to find out, okay, this user is downloading data from a location that they're not normally at. That could indicate that there's some sort of risk going on there. So the file and data control architecture is essentially allowing us to manage and monitor the files that are in there. And essentially what we can do at the bottom is we have a violation remediation, which is either a quarantine or a notification. And as I said, the SIEM connector is in private preview right now. And essentially we have a file directory and an event processing. So files are scanned and rescanned as part of the ongoing scan process, putting those into the scan queue, selecting files for scan, and then the content scan engine goes through and scans that and bubbles that up into the dashboard for you to actually have a look at that. And of course, we support now the Office 365 DLP engine and third-party DLP engines in Cloud App Security. Now, a lot of our customers are asking us, this is all great, we can run these scans, we can do all this kind of stuff, but it's kind of after the fact, offline type data. In-session control is what we call context-aware policies. And it's essentially about putting a geofence around an application like Salesforce. So this is based on users' activity in real time. So control access to cloud apps based on user location, device, and app. Supports any single sign-on application or SAML-based application based on the app or any type of OS. So, sometimes getting that data after the fact is not enough. You're going to want to do this as it's actually happening. This is limit sessions based on whether the device is managed or unmanaged. And I'm going to show you a demo a little bit later that shows you an unmanaged device and a managed device. And the way that we simulate this is through certificates. Okay, so one device is going to have a cert on it, the other device is not going to have a certificate on it, and it's going to be marked in the Cloud App Security console in that way. So this is integrated with Azure Active Directory, of course, and the device registration service, whether the device is managed or whether it's unmanaged. Now, why would we want to actually do this? Why should we be aware and want to be session control? So we want to know who it is. There could be somebody that's got high visibility within our organization. They could be the head of IT. They could be, where are they actually doing this? It depends on the context, which apps they're actually using, what their device posture is. Is their device within compliance? Is it a BYOD device or it is a company-owned device? So, an employee might be downloading a travel policy or something like that. So we want to make sure that we're context aware in regards to that. So it's a session broker engine that gives you multi-layered security. So we'll look at the user's role and their location, looking at 3 pillars, which is allowing us to enforce session controls. Device posture. Is that device compliant? Is it got the right compliance on it? What's the data classification? So 5 classification policies that we get from AIP. And is there any risk for that application? Now, an example of this is, say, we want to enforce, this is an adaptive case for CRM. So say a user wants to download a report from CRM. We want to identify their location. Where are they actually downloading this? Are they inside our network? Are they outside our network? Is he a CRM admin? He might be using a Tor browser. Okay, so a Tor browser, if that user uses that Tor browser, that's going to surface as a suspicious location because of the way that it routes traffic through the internet. How many times have they failed their logon onto that machine? And that could be a decision that we need to make. Is high risk, block that request. The app that they're using is a CRM app. What type of data are they actually trying to download? This could be a entire list of the customer data. So we want to actually check that. We want to make a decision on that in-session control. And I'll show you what that looks like in the demo. So employee wants to access their email, same sort of scenario. Now, this is a common task that a user would be doing. So we don't want to necessarily block this, but we want to have some sort of details about what's going on. So in this case, the employee is not a sensitive user. They're in France, and it's consistent with other attempts that they've actually done before. The device is compliant, the application that they're using is fine, and the data is non-sensitive. So we'll make the decision to say this is low risk, and we'll allow that request. All right? So let's have a quick look at what this looks like in real time. It looks like in a demo. Now, the cloud moves very, very fast, and our products move very, very fast, and I don't often get access to features all the time. So I'm going to show you a video. I don't often do this, but I'm going to narrate the video so that you can see what's going on. I don't have access to this particular feature, and I'm going to show you what it looks like and kind of walk you through what's going on. So what we have here is a machine on the left. We're simulating a compliant machine on the left and a non-compliant machine on the right. Is that how it's actually looking up there? Yeah. Okay, so, and we're going to log on to the same Salesforce logon. Okay, so on the left, Richard's going to log on here. He's going to log on to Salesforce on the left. And he's going to log on to Salesforce on the right. He's going to, of course, type his password. And what you're going to see is going to get prompted for a certificate. And this is just to simulate the managed and unmanaged device. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we're going to confirm the certificate. Believe me, I talked to the product team. They're not going to have this UI in the final thing. We're going to make it a lot easier for the user in this regard. Because when they showed us in the demo, I kind of went, you seriously want a user to decide whether to choose a certificate? And they went, no, we're not going to do that. So it's going to say OK on the left-hand side. It's just for the demo purpose. And on the left-hand side, they're going to hit cancel. Both scenarios are going to take them into their Salesforce application. Now, in Salesforce, of course, this is an application that we're monitoring, and we want to put a geofence around this application. And the user's going to go into the Salesforce application on the managed device, and they're going to download a non-confidential file. And what you're going to notice when we download this non-confidential file is that we are leveraging the AIP policies in Azure Information Protection. You'll see it in the confidential file. You won't see it in the non-confidential file. Now, they're going to download and open up the confidential file that has some credit card data in it. We have an Azure Information Protection policy in place, and you can see this is confidential, any user, no protection, because we've got confidential data in that. So Cloud App Security is aware of that policy, so that we are able to actually take governance around that. And you can see we put a label on that. We're going to close that down, and we're going to move over to the machine, the non-confidential, the machine that is non-managed. All the while, what's going on is Cloud App Security is monitoring this behavior in the activity log. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So now they're going to go through the same process. And what you're going to see with the confidential file is they're going to download this, but they're going to get blocked. Now, in its place, what you're going to see is a text file gets downloaded. Now, a text file gets downloaded to tell them why they've been blocked. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and open up that text file. We're going to go ahead and open up that text file. It's like he had an uncomfortable pause there for a second. I don't know why they did that. But so we're going to open it up, and you can see that download of this high-value business document is not prohibited. You're not allowed to actually do that. Okay? So the user was blocked at that stage. So that's in the context of the session that was blocked. Now, if we go back over to the Cloud App Security console, what you can actually see is some activity. If we go into the activity log, we will be able to see that activity that had just occurred. Okay, so that activity log will show you a couple of things. And we've got some new icons in Cloud App Security that indicate what got on. You can see here we logged on with single sign-on and Richard from different devices. And you can see that the icons are slightly different on each of those logons. You can see the one that we're hovering over now, it's got kind of that we came from IE11, we came from a Windows device. The one below that, you see there's a little tick that's there. That means that that's a managed device. So we're leveraging the device registration service. We're leveraging Azure Active Directory that device was managed. You can also see that we bypassed the proxy at this point because that was a managed device, so we didn't need to get redirected. If it wasn't a managed device, we're going to redirect them through the policy, through the proxy. And you see we have a policy here that says redirect unmanaged devices to the proxy at that point. Then you can see the activity around the file. They were allowed to download that confidential file in the first instance, and then we were blocked in the case of the file that was confidential because we have a policy in place that says block data, confidential files that are downloaded. All right? So we're able to actually block that document because it was something we didn't want our unmanaged devices to download. All right. I think that's the end of the video. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, so what are our SaaS providers actually saying about Cloud App Security? A lot of the SaaS providers want to be in this market. So they're working, Box, for example, is working very closely with us. They're providing businesses with stronger control and deeper visibility into their cloud applications. It helps them that companies are able to view the data because they don't want people to be stopped from using cloud app, these SaaS applications. People like Box and Dropbox, they want people to use their apps, but they want to be able to allow, they're supportive of IT being able to know that. And we have some customer case studies in regards to this around, we have a customer, First American, that's using Cloud App Security to protect users, and they're getting to determine whether there's a malicious activity going on or not. So we're seeing that very much so happening with customers now. Now, this solution comes in two different flavors. A lot of you mentioned, how many of you are using ASM, Office 365 ASM, Advanced Security Management? A couple people. Okay, so ASM is in Office 365. It comes in two different flavors. It gives you enhanced visibility for Office 365, but it's security alerts, productive app discovery, and it's part of Office E5. Cloud App Security extends you past all the applications. Instead of just Office 365, it's all the other SaaS applications that you know your users are actually using. Okay, and it's part of EMS E5. So that is sort of the difference between the two that we actually have. Now, of course, where does Cloud App Security sit in all of the EMS suite itself? So EMS E3, obviously that's Advanced Threat Analytics, Azure Information Protection P1, Microsoft Intune, Azure Active Directory P1, and then of course Cloud App Security sits up in EMS E5. So in summary, and I know we're probably a little early on time, but that's okay, we'll leave plenty of time for questions. So why would you love security? One of the things, Cloud App Security, one of the things I didn't mention at the beginning is Cloud App Security does not use any agents. There's no agent, nothing you need to put down on the user's machine. So it's very lightweight, there's nothing you need to have on the user's machine, and that's great. It's comprehensive control of your sanctioned applications. It's enterprise grade, it's very simple to deploy and manage. The threat detection draws on the intelligence that only Microsoft has. Which is our Microsoft Security Intelligence, or our Security Intelligence Graph. It's deeply, deeply integrated with the DLP policies that are in Office 365, and it's really a core part of our security, our overall security story. Now, with Cloud App Security, if you want to try it today, you can start a 30-day trial with the only vendor that provides you with a 30-day free trial. Okay, so if you go to cloudappsecurity.com, you can request a demo, and you can try Cloud App Security for 30 days. I'm going to skip the keep going thing because I want to get on. I have to actually make an announcement. I got given this piece of paper right at the beginning of this that I have to actually announce something. Anybody have a car parked downstairs? Apparently, if you have a car parked vehicle on level 1 car park, please move your car immediately to avoid towing. It's not me doing it, I just got handed this at the beginning of this. So if you do have a car parked on level 1, make sure you go and have a look. And they gave me a list of cars. If you want to come up and have a look if yours is on the list. I'm not going to read them all out, so we'll leave that for the time being. But that was just handed to me saying you got to tell them about that. So there's a whole bunch of things you can try with EMS. You can try enterprise mobility and security if you haven't tried it already, and you can get access and try what's going on with that. So, there's a bunch of resources that are out there. These are some of the locations you can go for IT pros. We have some courses around EMS up on Virtual Academy as well. Obviously with Ignite itself, all these sessions are going to be put up on channel9.microsoft.com so that you can continue watching all the sessions that you missed. Now, apparently this party's on tonight. Who's going to the party tonight? Yeah, a few people going to the party. So if you want to win a pass, make sure you fill out your evaluation. Want to make sure you do that. And remember to collect your wristbands for Spark After Dark. So you collect your wristbands. It's located at the help desk foyer C and foyers hall 3 and 4. Okay, we are about 20 minutes early. So I have a colleague here, Kwok, who is here if there's any deep technical questions you have. We have some time. I'm pretty sure, is there a mic around here anywhere? I'm not sure if there's a mic roving around. But if you have questions, we can take that now, or you can come up to the front, we can chat. But that's pretty much all we had in regards to that. So I thank you for taking the time to come and hear about Cloud App Security.